I believe it was the ancient sage Master Yoda that once said, "Judge this PC case not by its size." And that was exactly the advice we needed when we were looking at the Lian Li Lancool 207. It's smallish and comparatively lower price, but it's built like a brick house and it has a few big surprises in it. And we're going to tell you all about it right here, right now on Robeytech. With the popularity of their 011, their 011, however you want to say it lineup, it's hard to remember that Lian Li makes other cases, and those cases are just as worthy of our attention. Take, for example, the SUP-01 or the SUP-01, however you want to say it, a case that really took some risk with its design, or the Dan A3. It's a small form factor case that was one of our favorites of 2024. Again, all worthy of the attention of PC builders. And then there's the Lancool family, the series of mid-tower cases that prioritizes front air intake. It's into this family that the new member is added. Enter the Lancool 207. Now you might be looking at the name and saying, Robey, I know Lian Li has a Lancool 206, is just the 206, but they added like one more feature? Not so much, but then again, I'm not really sure what these numbers actually mean. What we do know is that we're about to show you a PC case that has a family resemblance, but it has its own way of expressing its individuality. So big thanks to Lian Li for letting us check out the Lancool 207. Now let's get to know it a little bit better, starting with the price and models. At the time of this video, the Lancool 207 is available in two different colors, black for around $80 or white for around $85. Now, when we start looking at comparable cases, the Lancool 207 has some competition from cases like the Corsair 3500X, the Phanteks XT Pro Ultra, and the 2024 NZXT H5 Flow. So it falls into that budget category, but we wouldn't call it a cheap case by any stretch. As far as physical dimensions go, the Lancool 207 is very similar in size to the 2023 H5 Flow. It's a little slimmer and shorter than the H5, but its width and height are very close to the Fractal Pop Air. When it comes to weight, the Lancool 207 is hefty for its size, weighing in at over 20 pounds or 9.25 kilograms. This case is similar in weight to the Corsair 4000D and the NZXT H6 Flow, which you should check out a review of right here. Now that being said, for $80 to $85, this case feels super solid. Now, as for I/O and controls, the Lancool 207 keeps things standard with two USB Type-A ports, a USB Type-C port, a combined audio jack, and a power button, as well as, well, that's it. There's no real need to complicate things here. What's also not complicated is, you know what, why don't you just go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and notification bell, easy peasy, and you're gonna get more videos like this. Now, moving inside of the case is just as simple thanks to the Lancool 207's toolless design. Lian Li does a really good job of leading builders to the right spots to tug on or to remove panels too, which is nice, especially if you're not used to building PCs. And to understand what kind of PC will fit inside of here, let's start with motherboards. The Lancool 207 can fit ITX, Micro ATX, and ATX motherboards with a standard width of 244 millimeters. Anything wider and you're out of luck. The Lancool 207's motherboard tray is actually inset, so there is literally no room to cheese the width of your MOBO here. It's also worth noting that this is not a back connector BTF style case. Although Lian Li is a member of the BTF Alliance, the case is not. Now moving on to GPU support, the Lancool 207 supports GPUs with a max length of 375 millimeters. As far as we know, this is plenty of room for your 50 series, your 40 series, your 9000 series, your RX 7000 series, your B series ARC GPUs, and whatever else that got announced at CES at the time of the video being recorded. There is a built-in GPU support bracket though with 3 different positions, so there is no issue handle hefty GPUs like those 5090s. But if GPUs start getting delivered in stretch limos, we might start having some problems. Now moving on to support for fans and cooling, the Lancool 207 can fit up to 240 millimeter fans at the case front, 2 140s or 3 120s at the case top, 2 120s at the case bottom, and 1 120 millimeter fan at the case rear. Now speaking of fans, which we love you, but we're talking about in the case, the Lancool 207 comes with 2 140 millimeter RGB fans with a massive 109.3 CFM airflow and 3.3 millimeter H2O static pressure ratings, as well as 2 120 millimeter PWM fans at the case bottom with a max airflow of 71.1 CFM and static pressure of 1.99 mm H2O. For the price of the case, we're definitely not mad at those specs. Now these bottom intake fans are actually recessed ever so slightly into the body, creating a flatter profile at the bottom of the case. We do like the design here, but be aware if you have to replace those fans, you need to be mindful of how thick the housing is. There's not a lot of wiggle room here. As for radiator support, Lian Li only lists support for top-mounted radiators. Up here, your options are 240, 280, or 360mm. In theory, you could use a 120mm radiator at the case rear or 280mm radiator at the case front, but with both of those, you're pushing into the main chamber and possibly fighting for space with other components. It's best to just follow Lian Li's recommendation here. I mean, they designed the thing, why not just follow their instructions? This means you can fit massive air coolers like the Noctua NHD15G2 or the Cooler Master MA824 Stealth. And with those two 140mm fans feeding it, air cooling is a great option in this case, and you're going to see that in the data a little bit later. Now moving on to storage space, the Lancool 207 has two removable mounting plates for drives. Each tray can support either one 2.5-inch or one 3.5-inch hard drive, so essentially it'll fit two drives. Now, as for PSU support, the Lancool 207 does something actually really interesting. Like the newly redesigned NZXT H5 Flow, which you can check out right here, the PSU is flipped upside down, or not, it's turned. But that's not all. Instead of sitting at the back of the case, it sits near the front and faces the rear panel. It also connects to an extension cable leading to the back of the case. To do this, you'll actually need to remove the small lower panel from the motherboard side of the case. This will give you access to the back of the PSU to plug into power. As an added bonus, this opening also gives you access to manage any cables that will live down in the space, if you're kind of into that kind of thing, you know, like we here at Robeytech actually are. Cable management. Now, rounding out the tour of the insides, we have a unified front panel connector as well as a USB 3, USB-C, and HD audio. Now, these are all black in the case we're reviewing, with the exception of the HD audio's multicolored mini cables. Come on, Lian Li. Asus did it with their Tough Gaming GT502. Basically, APNX did it with their V1. You can do it too. And now that we have that out of our system and we know the ins and outs of the Lancool 207, let's take a look at thermal performance. Now, as a reminder, the specs for our test bench are on the screen here. Now, a lot of questions come up about fans. We only add fans if there are fans that are missing. And in this case, there were none, so it was all tested with the fans that came with the case. Now, these are the same parts we use in all of our PC case tests every time. We're also testing in the same environment with the same tests, and these tests are all run at Intel stock CPU settings. In other words, science. So on to the data, starting with AIO tests. While at idle, the Lancool 207 averaged 25 degrees Celsius. This puts it in line with cases like the Corsair 3500X, the Fractal North XL Mesh, and the APNX V1. All of these cases are within 3 degrees of the Asus Tough Gaming GT302, our coolest case of 2024. Now, remember, this is at idle, so this is just the baseline. Now, moving on to CPU load tests, the Lancool 207 kept similar company. At an average of 71 degrees Celsius, we saw cases like the 3500X, the APNX V1, and the North XL Glass here. And for context, they also all came within 3 degrees of the GT302. As for gaming, the Lancool 207 asserted its position in the top 3, basically fighting it out with the 2024 NZXT H5 Flow at an average of 40 degrees Celsius while gaming. This average placed the Lancool 207 2 degrees warmer than the GT302. Now, since the 207 is an airflow-focused case, we have to talk about its performance with an air cooler. At idle, the Lancool 207 fought for space in a very crowded segment of our charts with an average of 25 degrees Celsius. While we have 5 cases that occupy this segment, one of those is the GT302. So the Lancool 207 has to be doing something right here to be keeping with that kind of company. Now, we have a slightly different story under full CPU load. Here, the Lancool 207 fights with cases like the Fractal North XL Mesh, the Geometric Future Model 5 Mesh, and the Fantex Eclipse G400A, all pushing to occupy the same space at an average of 76 degrees Celsius. It's worth noting that the venerable GT302 was actually 1 degree warmer here. And in gaming, our story stays consistent with our test metrics as a whole. The Lancool 207 averaged 45 degrees Celsius, putting it in contention for second place with cases like the G400A and the 2024 NZXT H7 Flow, but just 1 degree shy of that GT302, which just keeps it knocking down. Now, as for GPU temperatures, at idle, the Lancool 207 held our test GPU at a thermal average of 28 degrees Celsius. This put it in line with the H7 Flow, the GT302, and more. Under GPU load in our gaming benchmarks, the Lancool 207 reunited with the Corsair 3500X with an average GPU temp of 61 degrees. This positioned it next to cases like the 3500X, the O11 Vision, the Asus ProArt PA602, and more. So all around, this case performed very well. With thermals tested and a build or two completed, would we recommend the Lian Li Lancool 207 as your next PC case? Overall, if there was one word we could describe the Lancool 207 with, it would be solid. The performance, solid. The construction, solid. The value, solid. The build experience, solid. So yes, we would definitely recommend the Lancool 207. So if you want to see how easy it is to build in, you should check out our live stream that we did a budget-conscious 9800X 3D build inside of, and it's right here. Now the whole build only took me around about an hour and a half, and that was while chatting with you guys, and you know what, in the middle of it, I even took a phone call, because I'm that good. Yeah, hey, how's it going? Yeah, no, let me just put my CPU in. Now that being said, we do have a few considerations that we want to point out if you're looking at using this as your next PC case. Starting with disassembly. While Lian Li does a good job telegraphing where to pull in the case and to remove panels, we found that the top panel popped off, and not in a good way. It actually came off easier than we would have liked it to. Now this could be purely the sample that we have was sent with a little bit of a looser, basically top, but you know what, this is something to be aware of if you ever need to pick up your PC and move it. And while this case is smaller on the side of ATX cases, it's still hefty, so lift with your legs. But that smaller size comes at an ever so slight cost, and that ever so slight cost is space to tuck your cabling. Space is even more limited with how exposed the back of the motherboard is. This really only leaves the included cableways as a place to run your cabling. Now, if you want to use a PSU with really flexible cabling like the Tough series of gold PSUs that I use all the time, and you limit your extras like longer cable extensions or RGB controllers, this shouldn't be an issue at all because the cableway is pretty generous for basically this size of case. But really, with all those few things aside, the Lancool 207 is really a great case with some extras like the included fans and the GPU support bracket that can really basically give a beginner builder a solid building experience from the get-go and a solid performing build at that. Now the access to cabling in both the front and the back side of the case can really help users keep their cabling tidy, if you care about that sort of thing. And you should! Now not only that, at this launch price, you know what, don't be surprised to see this thing showing up in some of our upcoming budget builds. Overall, Lian Li gave us a solid PC case, so welcome to the Lancool family, Lancool 207. We hope to see you around for a while. And with that, this one's done. Those were our thoughts on the Lian Li Lancool 7, but we want to know what you think. Do you like the whole PSU in the front design? What about the whole inset fans and motherboards? Do you like the idea of that, or would you rather have them all on the same plane? Let us know down in the comments below. Now while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button with that like button and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we post a video like this right here in Robeytech. Also, if you have any other questions or you want to talk about other cases, make sure you head over to our Discord server, discord.gg/Robeytech. Amazing place to talk to other tech and PC enthusiasts about your future build and whether this might be the right case for you. And you know what? You might just make a friend. Also, follow at Robeytech on all the other social platforms right there. Thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.